Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Wire?
Here.
Commissioner Phelps?
Here.
Commissioner Shaw?
Here.
Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Mayor Denner?
Here. We have the agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Tracy, will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Phelps?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Wire?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Not seeing anything under appearances, acknowledgement. We'll move down into consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion or comment on the consent calendar? Not hearing or seeing any. Will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Wire?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Phelps?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. We'll move down into unfinished business. I'll open up the hearing on the proposed resolution number 2020-34 sidewalk improvement 2020. Chad, did you want to say anything before we have anybody else speak?
Yes, I can, Your Honor, if you'd like. Thank you, Your Honor, members of the commission, members of the public here or listening online.
Chad, will you make sure that's on? That mic, it should have a green dot on it, please.
It flashed red, there's no green right now.
Okay, it must be low on batteries. We can pick it up from,
Okay.
we'll be off.
Should I proceed?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What is on the agenda is the culmination of a couple different steps that had happened earlier this year related to new sidewalk installations proposed for next year, new sidewalk assessments where landowners would have the obligation to put in sidewalks, and in this case, for some of these projects that were listed, the city itself would be putting in some sidewalks as well. And to talk about a few of the steps, the sidewalk committee met after the budget was approved to review areas for recommending to try to have these sidewalks installed. As you may or may not be aware, I think we've talked about it several times, you probably are, since 1996 or so, when a comprehensive plan was approved by the city commission, and starting in 2004, there's been sidewalk assessments for landowners to put in sidewalks at various locations through town as recommended. The sidewalk committee typically meets and provides a recommendation to the city commission for these areas for a subsequent year, and then the city commission reviews that recommendation and then asks my office to prepare a resolution of necessity, and then that's prepared and acknowledged by the commission, and then subsequent to that, there's a hearing, at which time the hearing, the landowners or any parties would be able to speak to that matter, and then the commission can either take action at that time or subsequently on the proposed resolution. That is the exact process that has been followed this year as well, and we are at that hearing stage for that process. Specifically for this particular year, there was 6 areas the sidewalk committee has recommended. Those are included in the resolution, referred to separately as projects 1 through 6. I won't get into the names of those unless you would like me to, but they're listed in the resolution. A notice has been provided to the affected landowners and a notice in the paper regarding these areas. And indeed, a few of the landowners or their agents had submitted some concerns in writing. Those were in your agenda packet. One from Mr. Ronald Bird and his wife Nancy Bird, and then Mr. Miller, an attorney for Lammers, Clybacker, and Dawson, had submitted a letter on behalf of his clients, Stephen Lean and Murray Smith. And that's also included in the agenda packet. I have had a chance to talk to Mr. and Mrs. Bird and also Mr. Miller subsequent to receiving their letters last week. So with that, I'd be happy to stand by for questions or just step aside and if there's questions that come up, something, whatever you wish.
Okay. I'll open it up to any of the, being we have these two letters already, is Ron and Nancy Bird in here? We'll start with you. Got your letter here. If you want to come up and state your name and go from there.
Yeah, Ron Bird, 121 North Liberty. And the wife bought the house 20-some years ago from somebody. Anyway, there's two very large trees in the way of your sidewalk.
Okay.
One huge maple and then an evergreen tree. And if you put the sidewalk in straight across, it runs right up to the bark of both of them. My wife would just assume we let the things go until the trees come down and then put the sidewalk in so you don't have this zigzag thing in there.
Chad, are you familiar with this property?
Yes, I had a chance to visit with Mr. Bird on site, actually just this afternoon, and he is correct that there would be a straight line that would intersect those trees. What happens frequently is the commission has directed us in the past to work with the landowners to maneuver the sidewalk around obstructions. I would say there is additional room on the property to meander, if you will, the sidewalk to avoid the trees. And in this case, it's an 80-foot right of way, so there's even more space than there are on other locations to even miss some of the roots, and also to stay away from that 5-foot minimum off the back of the curb as well in this area. So I would submit that, yes.
There's a full sidewalk on the other side of the street. And at my brother's-in-law's place in Minneapolis, they only require one side of the street to have a sidewalk. Most of the time, people are walking down the street instead of on the sidewalk anyway, even though there's one on the other side.
Chad, are these trees in the right-of-way or?
I believe they're probably, I didn't get a tape off measure today because it's an 80-foot right-of-way. There's a lot of room there. I believe they're probably, Mr. Burke can correct me if I'm wrong on that, right on the property line, right near it. It might be slightly in the public right-of-way or on the private property, but probably more of them are slightly into the public right-of-way. Does that sound correct, Mr. Burke?
Yeah, and the maple tree, it's probably almost 100 years old. It's huge. The roots are sticking half out of the ground anyway. If you try to put a sidewalk in there, you'd have to dig a trench through the roots. And also there's a memorial garden there surrounding the tree.
Was there anything else for us?
No.
Okay. How about Stephen Lean or Murray Smith? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lane, and I also got the letter. My objection is I really don't have a front yard. You guys are talking about taking out 6 foot, what is it, 6 foot from the curb and then another 5 feet from the, for the sidewalk, well, I have trees in that right of way, and I also only have 18 feet from the curb to my front step. So that would put the sidewalk, edges of the sidewalk about 6 feet from my front step.
What is your address, sir?
114 North Olive.
Okay.
We're the ones that hired the lawyer. Subsequent to doing that, we found out that the city will pay for the removal of the trees, because you give me an estimate of $1,500 for the sidewalk, and we got an estimate of taking out the trees at $7,200. So your little $1,500 project actually gets really expensive in a hurry.
Chad, are these trees in the right of way? Do you know? Or
I believe those trees are, Mr. Lee can also correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're mostly in the right of way, probably crossing, they're
Well,
large enough that they're crossing.
west side, my house faces west. The west side of the one tree is 4 feet from the curb.
Yeah,
So it's definitely in your 6-foot right of way.
yep, I would agree.
Chad, will the city help incur the cost of that if
Yeah.
the tree were to come down?
Yes, I believe Mr. Lee mentioned it, and you may have
All
talked
of
to
it,
it.
part of it?
The cost of the trees, the city has, if there's no room to maneuver, in your case, unfortunately, this is a 60-foot right-of-way area, where it doesn't leave a lot of space to put a 4-foot 8-inch sidewalk. It leaves approximately 11 feet from the back of the curb to, that's the corridor, if you will, where that's placed. And so if there's trees and such in the way, there's no room. So indeed, the trees would have to be removed. The Public Works Department, we work with them. And then, of course, the landowners or their contractors, and they do take the trees down and grind the stumps in ahead of any,
The city does that at all cost to the city?
yes, yep, yes, sir.
so if that would happen, would you have any objection?
Partially. I'm willing to lose the trees to move the sidewalk closer to the street. Unfortunately, Murray is not, so we're kind of at odds there, and he's not here to give his side, but I understand that you're putting it in. I don't wanna do it in the first place. The house has only been there for 75 years without a sidewalk, and there is a sidewalk across the street, which, like Ron said, nobody uses either. They'll walk down the street. But when you start talking $1,500 and it starts looking more like $6,000, then I get a little bit concerned. You perhaps could put that in your letter that the city will take care of some of those problems that they're creating.
You're definitely right on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's our,
You're definitely right on that. We could put that. I
It
mean,
would help, because I'm sure Ron didn't know that. It cost me $300 to hire a lawyer to find it out.
okay.
If there is, I'm willing to work with you if your variances will stand up, but I'm not gonna agree to do it, and then all of a sudden, no, you have to put sidewalks 6 feet from your front step, because I don't have a front yard.
Right.
And that, if they're running straight across, I believe you measured from my garage door to, you said I had a 34-foot driveway, which I do. I measured my pickup, and it's 23 feet. The sidewalk runs straight across there. I got 6 inches between my garage door and the back of the pickup, otherwise I'm in violation of hanging over it, blocking your sidewalk that you made me put in.
Yep.
And I think Mr. Lean, if I may, he had mentioned variance. We do have some standards that for a variety of reasons, in coordination with Public Works Department, such to keep it minimum of that 5 foot off the curb. However, we coordinate with landowners and their contractors, and if they want to be closer, they gotta go ask for a variance, which more often than not, particularly like in this circumstance, they likely will, but ultimately that will all come back to the commission for you to decide on granting the variance. Part of the reason for the 5 foot, as Mr. Phil knows, as former street commissioner, and I think Mr. Gagno's here, with plowing snow, that can be a challenge. However, there have been, on occasion, some approved less than that 5 feet. But yeah, we would just work with you to help you through that process if you wanted to be closer than 5 feet.
Well, yeah, I don't want it on the curb either, because I don't feel like cleaning off with the snow plows up there either, so.
Yeah.
So,
If I could get a 3 foot variance or something on, and then put the sidewalk in, and you guys take out the trees, I'm willing to work with you, but the way it stands from what I read in the letter, it didn't look very good.
so Chad, correct me if I'm wrong. If we take out the trees, leave the 5 foot, are we still 6 feet from his?
Still about 6 feet from the
Okay.
front, yeah.
So even if we took out the trees, he would have to come and ask for a variance to make it closer.
Yeah, the city commission passed a resolution that if it's less than 5 feet, then a variance application would have
Right.
to be approved, so that would be correct, yes.
And you will work him through that if that's
Yep.
the route we're gonna go?
That's correct.
Okay.
Shot in the dark or weeds or whatever you want to call it. How close, is there any law or ordinance that we got on the books, how close you can be with the sidewalk somebody's house?
No, I guess the sidewalks are typically in the public right of way. And in this case, the public right of way is narrower than most areas in town. It's 60 feet. And so, that puts it 11 feet off the back of the curb or so. But then regarding zoning and how far away structures are, currently setback requirements for zoning, the closest you can be on a corner lot is 15 feet, but typically if it's not a corner lot, it would be 25 feet or 30, depending on the district you're in. So that would put it 25 or 30 feet from the sidewalk. However, in areas of established neighborhoods and such like this, where they've been around for, as Mr. Lean had mentioned, 100 years or so, they didn't comply with the setbacks at that time. And so it is indeed closer, but there's nothing explicitly that says how far a sidewalk has to be from a house.
I'm sure this gentleman and everybody else, I know I wouldn't want sidewalk right up by my front step where they could ring my doorbell as they walk by. I would not like that.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Anybody else here for the sidewalk? Come on up and state your name.
Yeah, my name's Jim Wise, and I live on South Grant. And my concern is with, like the other two gentlemen, is why do they recommend sidewalks on South Grant? You know, 'cause we haven't had sidewalks for 40-some years I've lived there. Now all of a sudden they want sidewalks. I know there's a handicap down there.
That's probably one reason why they
Right.
push towards,
But like Ray said, there's a sidewalk on the other side of the road, why don't they use it?
and then you're making that person cross Grant twice in a wheelchair.
Well,
Okay.
you basically make them cross on the highway too when they go to Dollar General. I mean, it's a convenience then, basically. I mean, it really isn't a necessity for us to put sidewalks in, because there is a place for them to go to get to 4th Street to go up toward Washington. You know, it's an expense for us. I just spent about $10,000 on driveway and landscaping. Now I gotta rip the landscaping out, everything, which, I see this person when she's in her wheelchair going down the road all the time. She don't even use the sidewalks. She goes down 4th Street, they got brand new sidewalks, there. She never uses them. The only sidewalks I see her use are on the highway, which I understand why, because more traffic, but, I mean, is it your guys' opinion that everybody should have sidewalks in front of their houses?
I think that's
Should be.
the goal at the
Yep.
end, yes.
Is that your guys' goal? Because I can't argue with that.
No,
Right.
that's where we've been at it
You
since 1996, and then
Right,
when
I
the
mean,
commission put that in.
you guys just want everybody to have sidewalks.
Correct.
Yep.
Because really, there's no reason we have to put one in because she can go to the other sidewalk and go. I mean, it's handicap accessible and everything. But if it's your guys' opinion that you want everybody to have sidewalks someday in town, then I can't really argue much. you
And,
know.
and we're also doing the city property too, just so you
You
know.
know, like I have another concern, she gets up to 4th Street, she wants to say go down to Runnings, or go down to St. John's Church or something. There's no way for her to go there. Because if you go north on Grant, it's all gravel roads, there's no sidewalks. So why wouldn't that be more of a necessity this year than us, It's kind of, I sure like to get rid of the gravel road. But I like to open my windows in the summertime, but when the wind's out of the north, you got a gravel road in town yet, and cars are flying down them gravel roads. So you can't even open your window up if it's a windy day, because, so there's a road that they can't even go down in a wheelchair, because, potholes and all that. And you all know what it is, I'm sure. Bob does the road, and I've asked, I think I called you when they had the highway tore up about even putting down a chemical on that road. So, but nothing was ever done about it. But there was cars going up and down that road all the time when they had this highway tore up.
Is that the one by the tracks there?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, ain't there a way, even if if you don't want to pave it, which I'm sure it's the railroads, a lot of it, can't you guys put down a chemical on it, like once a year at least? So there ain't dust, That
I'm
would
sure
help
it's
out a lot, out by Stempers they do, I don't know who covers that,
Stemper
I think
did most
I
of
think
that.
he does.
But that really helps out there. I mean, I don't even think we should have gravel roads in Madison. I mean, it's 2021. I mean, when they started paving roads back in the 60s or 70s, nobody wanted to pave them, but they had to. Why don't they do this one? And then put sidewalks in there too. But I guess my concern is, I don't know why we have to put sidewalks in on Grant when there is a sidewalk across the street that they can use to get where they're going. And why wouldn't it be more of a priority to do north on Grant, on that gravel road? Because now this person has to go up to Washington and go all the way down the subway. If she say she wanted to get over that way,
Chad, do you know some of the criteria or how the selections are made, or the hierarchy of?
Well, in the 1996 plan, there was some recommendations for some of the higher volume roads, as you might expect, and then around schools. And so those have been done for the most part since then. And so on an annual basis, when the sidewalk committee looks at them, they provide a map, shows where all the sidewalk is. Is there a written set of criteria? No. But some different things that I hear them talk about this year, there was a person in a wheelchair added to the committee, so they were extra sensitive to that. Whether that's the reason this road got selected or not necessarily, I don't think. But if we look at population areas where there's apartments and such like that, and then oftentimes it's just looked at as corridors, where there's an underserved, if you will, area where there's not a way to connect those apartment buildings or other population centers or business areas, whatever it may be, to try to do that. And then it's just looking through town, looking at the map, see, well, where is this not connected to the other different roads that it's done. And so they selected one time, I believe it's Chicago and Liberty, well, not Chicago, West and Chicago, going up to the schools, all the way from the highway, to try to get that up there. They try to go around parks. So I'm rambling a little bit, but is there an explicit? No. They just kind of look at the map, make their best judgment.
But there's thought, they're not just
Oh, yeah.
picking.
It's quite
Yeah.
extensive. I mean, I sit on the sidewalk committee, and there's a lot of thought and process that goes into it when we do it.
Yeah, I know that, I just, but I see these sidewalks, like, there's one down by, well, across the street from me down the way, and there's been a blue spruce that's grown across there for 20 years. You can't even get to, you gotta go out on the road. I mean, and you would think the sidewalk committee would see something like that too, and say, but that blue spruce been there for, 40 years. And I think Bob knows where it is, but down there probably, but, we have these sidewalks a lot of times, they're covered with stuff too, I know you guys probably put it in some of your paper that, sidewalks need to be cleared of bushes and stuff, but I know this one hasn't, so, well, good to have a sidewalk and you can't get through anyway.
Yeah, they should be maintained and kept.
And then another thing is, like, there's a vacant lot on the corner down in South Grant, Silver Creek Circle. Now, are they gonna have to put a sidewalk in?
Yes.
Okay, now, are you gonna make them do both sides at
No.
once?
We don't make people do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we don't make people do both
I
sides.
didn't think so.
We're, they choose, that is a habitat,
So how does that
how-
benefit her then? Or I'm just doing.
because they also said they were gonna put in a house this summer. So they agreed to put in a sidewalk now,
One way.
so the contractor doesn't bust it up, and then they'll connect it on, would be on the south side. So they're gonna do the
So
same.
that's what I'm thinking, is like, well, you gotta go on the road anyway, or you guys only make one side, and then probably,
Right.
like you said, they do the Grant side this year.
Right.
When they built the place.
Well, no, we're gonna make them do Grant side
Oh,
this year, plus if they finish it, they'll finish. They just didn't wanna do both of them in the same year due to the construction.
okay.
So-
That's why I was getting at, like, well, she's gotta go on the road, and if they did like the Silver Creek side, she would have to go all the way up to, 523, to get in on the sidewalk, but if you're gonna make them do Grant side
Right,
first, well, then she still has to go out on the road, but
right.
I guess, is it a big necessity? Probably not, but you guys want everybody to have sidewalks, is what it is, right?
That is our goal, that is the city's goal, to have everybody to have sidewalks.
So, there ain't much I can argue about that, because that's your goal. It's a necessity to have it, because there is a way to get to where they're going.
And Chad, you would say what percentage of the city is
Just
sidewalk
looking at
both
those
sides?
Maps over the years, I would say we're probably close to 75% or so. We could do a bit of a pencil it out a little bit and see, but.
And I think it looks nice,
Sure.
sidewalks, and, yeah, it's nice to walk on them instead of the road, But I guess that was my concern, is why do we need them, but I know we have a handicap down there, but I just figured there's a sidewalk on the other side of the road to get to all the other place.
And Mr. Wise is unfortunate, that's actually a 60-foot right of way as well, so you have some
Yeah.
challenges, same challenges that Mr. Lean also has as well. But we'll
It's
work with you, just call us and we'll try to help show you where it is and so on.
Well, I talked to Mr. Consul already, because he
Yep.
kind of did mine, and he kind of, but, yeah, it does slide up a ways,
Yeah.
but, I got some nice landscaping, but the way it looks, he lined it up with, down there at the end,
Oh, sure.
with that when we did my driveway, so. I gotta tear out some landscaping, I know it's in the right of way, but that's how you landscape, you want it to flow through and look nice.
Mhm.
And then I put a corner thing in, so I'll have to rip that out. I guess if I could change your mind and not put it in, but it sounds like it ain't gonna happen because you guys want them anyway, no matter what. The sidewalks. So that's what was my concern, so I got a feeling I'm not gonna get it where I don't have to put one in, right?
Depends on our vote.
The
Yeah.
goal isn't to make it
Uh,
painful for anybody. Nobody's
Yeah.
wanting to put a burden.
Yeah,
It, you know, it's,
and it does look nice, have sidewalks in front of houses and.
And to get back to your question, or even the comment, why don't we just bite the bullet and say everybody put sidewalks in at the same time?
Like a 5-year thing, you know, just say, everybody's gonna have sidewalks in 5 years, because it doesn't do much good, me put a sidewalk in, and she wants to go north, and there's
The-
nothing there.
The issue with that is the city is still responsible to put in the corner piece.
Right,
So we would have to put in throughout the whole city that corner piece, correct, Chad?
Right.
And that is not,
and just contractors as a whole
Yeah.
to get,
but most of them are done, ain't they? I mean,
there's a few still out there.
And the city took on a pretty large project this summer as well, or coming up. We're gonna do quite a bit of the city property as well.
well, that's another thing, you know, 'cause I see it like along the old electric plant,
Yep.
you know, and it's like,
Yep.
But,
I think that, where the
That's a-
gardens are,
Yep.
Yeah.
will be done
This
this
comes-
year, right?
Correct.
Chad?
I see
Yep.
that on that paper
Yep.
and stuff. So, now, you know, I was talking about that gravel road, can I do that now or not? You guys can't do nothing about that?
I'll talk to Commissioner Thill, and he can talk with Gary about seeing what it would cost to put down some chemicals.
Yeah.
Try it. We'll
If,
discuss.
You know, if you could, that would be nice.
Okay.
You know, I know you're probably not gonna pave it, maybe for, yeah, but I don't know. But it'd be nice, where you, in the summertime, you know, it's windy and they're coming down that road, and it's coming out, I know you got a north wind or something, you know, east, northeast, it just blows. You know, I always think, geez, we live in town, we shouldn't have to put up with stuff like
I don't disagree with you, Jim.
Okay.
A town this size should not have gravel roads in
Yeah,
it, but
Yeah.
we need
But I would
to.
appreciate it if you guys would look at it and do something.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to me.
Before we leave on that, Chad, is there anything on the books that says you can't force somebody to put sidewalk in until they have curb and gutter and blacktop on their street?
Correct, well, there is an ordinance now, I'll say this, when people develop a house, for example, and there's curb and gutter in place, if there's curb and gutter in place, it's required to put the sidewalk in when the house is built. If there's no curb and gutter in place, it says that's not required. So that's the only thing close to what you're describing that's in the ordinances.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Is there anybody else here to speak on the sidewalk? Not seeing any. I'll close the hearing, and we'll jump down to item number 1. Under new business, adopt resolution number 2020-34, sidewalk improvement 2020. Chad, did you want to say anything more, or?
It is the same,
Okay.
similar discussions to what we've been having.
I guess, again, I can't make a motion, but I would like, if we could, if everybody's on board with it, maybe table it. I would like to go see these 2 properties. I know where Jim lives, been down there. Mr. Leans, we're kind of taken care of if we can work together on, but I would like to at least go see 114 North Olive and 121 North Liberty, if you guys are good with tabling it for a week.
Are we gonna stay in the unfinished business though, don't we?
What's that?
We're getting ahead of ourselves. aren't we?
Nope, we're going to jump down and do this.
Oh,
We're going to finish the
I'd make a motion, we table it for a week.
I'll second it, that's fine.
Okay, any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any? Take roll call.
Commissioner Ware?
Aye.
Commissioner Phil?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Okay, we'll move back up to unfinished business. Item number 2, hearing on, we'll open up the hearing on the creation of the Business Improvement District. Eric, did you want to say anything on that?
I don't have a whole lot of other information than when I was here a few weeks ago. You know, it is a tax that generally out-of-towners will be paying, $2 per room per day. And I did see in the ordinance that there will be a 2% handling fee that the city will take care of, since they're going to be administering and collecting the funds. Just one other kind of example, the NAI indoor track meet got moved to Yankton today. Part of the reason they were able to move it to Yankton is because their bid board donated $1 million to get that facility built for Yankton. So, you know, anytime we can bring more things to town to get people into our businesses, it'll be a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else want to speak on this hearing of the creation of the Business Improvement District? Not hearing any, I'll close the hearing. We'll move down to item number 2. Do I have a motion to approve the first reading ordinance number 1627, amend chapter 19, taxation article 2, Business Improvement District?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any more comment or discussion on it? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take a roll call vote?
Commissioner Phil?
Aye.
Commissioner Ware?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Mayor Denner?
Aye. Item number 3, approve first reading ordinance number 1626, water rate and charges. Brad, did you want to talk on this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Mayor, members of the commission, you should have in your packet the ordinance 1626, and in that ordinance it depicts the different rates for both the base rate and the surcharge. And preparation for making the bond payments for the rural development project, we're kind of reshuffling the deck a little bit on the base rate. At the end of the day, the total for in-town and out-of-town, all those on the right-hand side on that top block of numbers, those stay the same. The total is the same. What we did is we increased the surcharge and reduced the base rate on that. The only thing that did go up on this was something that I explained in an email. In B, under the surcharge for the per unit dwelling, this is if you have a master meter and then you charge a little extra for each dwelling. There was a surcharge that was put in place back in 2013, and 2013 the base rate and the surcharge are both at 41% of what the normal rate would be. As time has gone on, the base rate has been increased, but the surcharge hasn't. So now the base rate is up to 79% roughly of the current rate, and the surcharge stayed at 41%. So this is an attempt, this brings us about halfway of where we need to go to get that surcharge up to where the percentage matches. I didn't want to go the full distance the first time out, so kind of soften that blow a little bit. It'll take a couple of years to get that done. The only other change was the way that the wording was in the previous ordinance. There was no separate bullet that talked about the per unit charges. and we added that in subletter C there, subparagraph C, and that is, we put that in there as a specific bullet. Before, it was done through the adding of the base and the surcharge, but because of the way that the math was done in the past, they used different gallonages for each one and just kind of hodgepodged it. And when you go back and when we put this table in down here under F, if you were to go across here and try to do the math and make these all equal out, you'd drive yourself crazy. And so the idea was to straighten that out so you could follow the chart, walk it through the chart, and make sure that everything added up. But then that made it to where I couldn't have those two numbers up top equal the consumption rate, so we had to put in a separate consumption rate. And that's why we tabled it at the last meeting and brought it back this meeting.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve first reading ordinance 1626, water rate and charges?
So moved.
Second.
So basically, I wanted to touch base after that. Thank you, Brad. I know you spent a lot of time on this. Like Brad said, I'm very pleased to say there's no increase in any utilities this year or for next year. Actually, we cleaned it up. We, as you guys will see under F, this will make it a little bit more easier to understand where your money's going to. Lewis and Clark, the water treatment bond, the plant bond, and now the RD bond. We have finished phase 1, 1A1. It's 3 blocks up on Liberty, Chicago, and West, correct? Between 2nd and 5th. New curb, new roads, new infrastructure. So if you haven't noticed it, you can go up there and see what we have done, where your money is going to, and what it's for. So, like I said, I'm very pleased to let everybody know that utilities will stay right where they're at for next year. Is there any other comments or discussion?
No, this just, oh, go ahead.
They're not gonna raise water rates then?
Mm-mm.
What are you changing? You're changing something now.
We had, Brad, those 2 sheets there on the top corner, hand them to Mr. Lee, please. Thank you. Okay, got it? Yep. And hopefully even on the bills, once we get moving into our new software, on the bills, my plan is to make sure everybody knows if we got a Lewis and Clark bond, it will be on there, and that amount will go right on it, so everybody knows where your money's going to and what it's used for. Okay. Is there any other comments, discussion?
No, I just think it cleans it up, and then
Yes.
and people will understand where their money is going, and if rates increase, you'll understand why now. I mean, it's not like we're just gonna raise rates. We're gonna actually be able to give you some concrete information and as to where the money is going.
And the one thing I didn't mention, I think it's important, is that we had contemplated doing 2 steps with this, and after discussions with Cody Morris with now it's Colliers, used to be Doherty and Company, it was his recommendation that we go the full step in 1 step instead of splitting it up on this. Then just, since the total doesn't change, what we're charging customers doesn't change, we're just taking some of the money and earmarking it specifically for improvements. He thought that was a better thing to do, get it all done in one, and then we're gonna have to go through the same process next year with sewer, and we didn't wanna do both at the same time.
And we said, let's just do this, and we'll go through next year, and we'll carve out some surcharge out of the sewer base, and it'll be the same process as what we did this year. We just didn't want to do both at the same time.
And, what was I gonna say? Well, like you said, infrastructure, and I really think that's where this money needs to be going right now. We obviously need some infrastructure help and work, and I appreciate the fact that what you guys got here. This is really good.
And that was the whole idea, was that we can use the, for the bonded indebtedness and for improvements.
Yep.
So we can do both with this. So if we have any money that's beyond what's needed for the bond and the coverage ratio of the bond, then we can apply that towards improvements. We don't have to wait until the bond expires to take that excess money and channel it back into our system. So that's, we've carefully crafted it so that we have that ability that we can do both. And we don't have to worry about having to wait to the end of the bond and then take whatever excess cash is in that escrow account and then apply it towards improvements.
Any other questions, comments?
No, this is good. Thanks,
Thank you.
Brad.
Not hearing any more. Tracy, will you take roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Phil,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item number 4, Chad, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 4, Banner Association, Inc., J&J Earthworks, Inc., Water System Improvement Project, Phase 1A.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Included in the agenda packet is said change order, 2-page document with a supporting letter from J&J Earthworks dated November 4th, 2020, and another letter from Banner Associates, Pat Carey from them, dated November 25th, 2020. This change order does not change any costs on the projects. This changes what I would refer to as an interim completion date for the concrete portion of the work that was accomplished this year on the project called Phase 1A in the northwest part of town. Previously, in change order 3, it was approved to change for the asphalt paving portion from October 1st to October 8th. That's the date it was actually completed. Due to that shift in days, due to some abnormally cold weather in late September, the concrete work was respectively needed to be shifted a few days. And so the concrete work, particularly the driveways that didn't get done before the November 1st date, was done after the paving, and that was completed about November 9th. And so what this changer does, it just changes that completion date to November 9th due to the weather circumstances encountered for the project. No change in cost, just the days. You probably could say somewhat of a housekeeping change order, but I would recommend approval. Banner Associates has also recommended approval, as you can see. And then there's additional details included in the letters as to justification as well. And I'd be happy to stand by for questions.
Okay. Do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign change order number 4, Banner Association, Inc., J&J Earthworks, Inc., Water System Improvement Project, Phase 1A?
So moved.
Second.
Excuse me, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Warren. I would say, please, if you could amend your motion, I neglected to recall that everything needs to be contingent upon RD concurrence.
Okay.
So if that could be added to the motion, that would be great.
Just add it on to the end of it.
You're good with
Yeah, just add it on to the
Yes,
end.
that would be sufficient.
on RD?
Yes,
Concurrent.
contingent upon RD concurrence. If that's all right with the motion and the
Yep,
second.
I'm fine
Is
with
it
it.
all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Phil,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item number 5, authorize the mayor to electronically sign applicant project review, category G, parks, recreational facility, and other items. FEMA project 133426, 2019 September flood, applicant number 4469DRSD. In your packet is the category G final approval. This is for the Parks Department and all the work they did to repair the city parks back to pre-flood conditions. Page 2 of the document in your agenda packet shows the location and a brief description of the work completed. We had 6 different locations that were affected with a total of $26,743.44 worth of damage claims. Most of the damage and repairs were to the Thruy Flynn complex, where the surface were completely washed out. New P-rock and egg limes were hauled in, along with the damages to concession stand, which includes a new water heater and also new irrigation pump to field number 1. At Yogi Bear Park on East Center Street, the city demolished the old warming shack as it was not usable and no longer needed. This was demolition and is not going to be replaced. Our labor and equipment costs for the demo are included in the total. There was also the rec trail had a section that needed repaired, and those repairs were contracted out with Asphalt Pros in the damage of $7,500. The remaining sites are self-explanatory in the packet and smaller dollar amounts. And the numbers were verified and are correctly to my best knowledge. So do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to electronically sign application project review category G, park, recreational facilities, and other items? FEMA project 133426, 2019 September flood, applicant number 4469DRSD.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further comments or questions? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Phil,
Aye.
Commissioner Wallner,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Let's see here. Item number 6 is, Tracy's going to talk about this one. Authorize the mayor to sign final closeout report FAA-AIP 3-46-0029-019-2020 CARES Act funding.
If you recall, back in July, we signed an agreement with the FAA. We received $30,000 for CARES funding. We could use that for any purpose at the airport, truly, as far as we could do payroll, we could do utilities, repairs. Basically anything that we're doing at the airport we could submit for. What we had done back in, and anything after January was what we could submit for. In May we made some repairs to some door straps at the hangar, and that accounted for like $16,000 worth of it. We could also use it towards our aviation fuel that we purchased for resale, and that basically accumulated the other half of the $30,000. This simply is a signature, and then we will get that $30,000 grant in. We could not use any invoice that we had submitted for any other CARES Act funding, which with the airport there's not much that we have submitted as far as COVID relief money. So this is truly just airport stuff.
Do I have a motion to authorize the mayor to sign final closeout report FAA-AIP 3-46-0029-019-2020 CARES Act funding?
So moved.
Second.
Is Is there any further comments or discussion? Hearing any, Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Thil,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner, Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Tracy has another one that she's going to talk about. Approve application for commercial hauler license solid waste buds cleanup service.
You see this every year about this time. We try to get it in before the first of the year. Simply so we know who's hauling garbage in town. So you will see they have 12 vehicles and it lists out their vehicles on the back. I believe it is $25 for their fee. So that will be deposited after your approval tonight.
25 total.
Total, yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the application for commercial hauler license solid waste buds cleanup service?
So move.
So move.
I'll second it.
Okay. Got that, Tracy? Okay. Any further comments or discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry to bother you guys, on this civil board. Excuse me.
Yep.
I understand what's going on. Excuse me,
You bet.
Mississippi.
Tracy, you want to take roll call vote, please?
Yep, Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Thil,
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. Item number 8, Brad, declare surplus property and appoint appraiser, Commissioner Wire, yourself, Brad Lawrence, and Tess Nelson, and authorize for proper disposal utility poles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, should have in your packet for the form, we have 115 salvaged wood utility poles. Gary's tired of stepping over them out in his yard, and they're kind of cluttering up several different places, and we'd like to dispose of them. There are some parties that are interested in them. In the past, when we've tried to sell them at surplus, we basically the amount of labor that went into trying to split them up into good poles and moderate poles and bad poles far outweighed what we gained on sales. So it's going to be more or less first come, first serve, and we'll send them out the door. I think the last time we got $2 a pole for them, and some of them are, the ones over in Gary's yard are broken in half. They're just rotten, and they're really not good for much of anything. So it's time to just get rid of them, and there's not any significant value in them that we can see. So.
Do I have a motion to declare as surplus property and appoint appraisers, Commissioner Wire, Brad Lawrence, Tess Nelson, and authorize for proper disposal utility poles?
So moved.
Second.
Any further comments or discussion?
That was 115 each? Okay. There were 115 kV poles. That's
No,
okay.
115 poles of various sizes and conditions, mostly bad, and we're
Any other discussion or comments? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Shaw,
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner,
Aye.
Commissioner Wire,
Aye.
Commissioner Thil,
Aye.
Mayor Denner.
Aye. I don't know, is Kristen on?
Kristen, are you on? Yes, I am.
Okay, item number 9, Kristen will bring us up to speed. Approve updated COVID-19 guidelines.
Yes, the COVID-19 policy regarding the new guidelines is simply to adjust and reflect the new CDC and Department of Health guidelines that they set out in regards to an employee being quarantined due to a close contact exposure for either 7 days or 10 days, depending on if the employee has a negative test result between day 5 and day 7. If the employee chose to get tested between day 5 and day 7, employee would then need that test result to be negative and could return on day 8 and would remain under their self-monitoring of symptoms for the remaining 14 days. If the employee didn't want to get tested, employee would then be quarantined for 10 days after the close contact, and then would return to work after day 10, which would be on day 11, and would then self-monitor for the remaining 14 days. That was the big change. So.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. Do I have a motion to approve the updated COVID-19 guidelines?
So moved.
Second.
Did have one question for you, Kristen. So if the employee chooses to get tested, is that at their cost?
That is a benefit that is running through the employee's insurance, because we are being told that COVID is being covered just like any other test or vaccination at this time. So.
Okay,
But
thank
yes,
you.
it would go through their insurance. It's not something that the employer would be responsible for.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. Is there any other comments or discussion?
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes.
This is Jeff. If you don't mind, Commission, I thought this might be a good moment just to update you a little bit on the CARES reimbursement funds that we've been working on.
Okay.
The city has received to date about $730,000 in reimbursement, and we have about $60,000 of reimbursement submissions waiting to be acted on. You may have noticed on the list of bills tonight there were over $20,000 in purifiers on the list of bills, and we will be reimbursed for that. That is clearly an expense. We're learning a lot as we go through this project about what qualifies and what doesn't qualify. There has been no change. I think even the recent bill that Congress may have acted on in the last day or two, I don't think extends the deadline past December 30th. I was hoping that it would.
Jeff?
That would have entitled us to receive more reimbursement, primarily for our law enforcement payroll expenses. So we will be submitting another request next week, which will be through the payroll of December 19th, through December 19th. And then in January, we will be submitting the payroll for the last portion of December. So I'm estimating that the city should receive approximately maybe a little bit light of $1 million in reimbursement through the CARES Fund. If, like I said, if they do extend that deadline, that would be very helpful to us. Then we can continue to submit reimbursement for law enforcement payroll related expenses and any additional supplies. So I thought maybe the commission would like to hear how we're doing.
Jeff, on that, I just had a meeting with First Mayors with Yvonne Taylor at the South Dakota Municipal League, and I think they did extend that. We may want to check on to that. I think they would. I think I was told it was hard to hear them over the phone call, but I do believe they extended it till next year of December 31st.
Oh boy.
So
that's what we want to hear.
We may want to check on that tomorrow with maybe call Yvonne and see if I heard correctly. Okay.
That would be great.
Okay. Any other comments or discussion on the updated COVID-19 guidelines? Not hearing any. Tracy, will you take roll call vote?
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
Commissioner Phil?
Aye.
Commissioner Wire?
Aye.
Commissioner Shaw?
Aye.
Mayor Gunner?
Aye. Do we have any COVID-19 updates?
Slowly coming down.
Yep.
Just good.
Yes,
Be
indeed.
diligent.
Again, we're not requiring, we didn't make a mandate on it. I know that's one of the things we talked as, in my mayor's meeting today, how other cities and towns were getting or handling the mandate. Everybody, yeah, they put out a mandate, but there's no teeth in it, so we're just here to remind you to wear your mask when you're out in public. Public comment? Okay, announcements?
Yeah, I got a question. When did the fence go in by the pool? Was that, or
2 weeks ago?
I
Yeah.
happened to drive by it
They,
tonight?
they already got it
Saw
put in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Looks nice.
I know Mr. McGilvery told me they were gonna pull it out,
Yeah.
and if they could put it back in, they would, but
They got her
Okay.
put in.
no exec session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, signify by aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you and have a nice evening.